Welcome to the Beats and Balance podcast. On this episode, we're joined by Vibha, a women's mindset and leadership coach, helping ambitious, heart-led women step out of good girl conditioning and into authentic leadership. After more than a decade in the corporate world, Vibha chose to trust herself and follow her bigger vision, creating the Seed Circle framework, a psycho-spiritual coaching model designed to help women reclaim confidence, clarity, and purpose. This is a conversation about courage, self-trust, and what it means to lead from wisdom instead of wounds.
Thank you for joining the Beats and Balance podcast. I'm here today with Vibha. We're going to get started. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you here today?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Vibha, and I'm a mindset and leadership coach for women. And most of my life, I've been in the corporate space. So I have 12 years of experience being in the corporate world, but I never felt fulfilled in the corporate world. I always felt like there was more to me. There was more that I wanted to share and I wanted to give. I wanted to do work that was more meaningful, that made an impact on the world. And so I decided to pivot. And when I moved to Canada, I knew I wanted to work with women because I've been passionate about this topic for a very long time. And then I decided to study being a coach specifically for women.
Very cool.
And yeah, that's why I'm here.
All right, awesome. Talk to us a little bit about your journey, how you've come to the work that you've done, kind of like maybe some of the struggles that led you to realizing that it was like impactful work that needed to be done. I know in the corporate world, I've had a corporate background myself, and my mom was a lawyer, my wife was a professor, so I've seen the toll that the stress can take on women in particular, because you kind of have to mask more than others. There's an expectation that you kind of fit yourself into a box, and any kind of movement outside of that is frowned upon, and that can be super restrictive. Tell me a little bit about like how you were able to pivot from being in corporate to realizing that like, oh no, something needs to change here, to coaching women, to helping them kind of survive that environment.
Yeah, I think after my first 3-4 years in the corporate world, I was a strategist and I really enjoyed it. It helped me utilize my creative side. It helped me utilize my rational, my intellectual side. So it was a good mix for me. But I could tell within the first 3 years, I wanted something different. So even while I was in corporate, on the side, I always had a side gig. So I was always doing something on the side. And I was an environmentalist. So I started a business on the side. I started my own podcast on sustainability. Because corporate wasn't fulfilling me, I was always doing something on the side. And somehow I was like, okay, this is paying my bills. I'm going to keep going. I think the switch happened when I became a mother and I realized I cannot do a corporate job, mothering, and a side gig to fulfill me. So I was like, okay, one thing's got to go. And for me, that was the corporate work.
Yeah.
And I finally had the courage to say yes to my desires and my dreams. And I made concerted efforts to creating something different. I think before this, even though I knew I wanted something different, I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the pull. Like they say in the coaching world, they say that the pain of being where you are has to be really uncomfortable for you to choose a different path. Because if it isn't uncomfortable for you, you're probably going to be like staying there. Okay, things are good, whatever, So I think that point came for me when I was a mom and I was just like, this is too much. I can't do this.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think for us all, it's like to get you out of the comfort zone, you have to kind of feel that pressure, or else, like if you're comfortable, you'll never move. But then you'll never kind of experience all that life has to offer, and like maybe some of the things that you were meant to do that you kind of had to push to the side. But I know that it can be really daunting and scary, especially like if you have children that you have to take care of, losing the income and the stability of the corporate job. That's kind of how I don't think there's anybody that really likes working. Like, I don't think there's anybody that really likes working in corporate, but they hook you because it's like, oh, here's stability and all these things. So how were you able to take that kind of leap of faith to be like, I'm gonna follow my dreams, move away from like this safe kind of stable life that's not fulfilling? Because I think there's a lot of people that probably want to make that jump, but like you said, there's a lot of fear around that.
Yeah, there was a lot of fear, and it was to feel the fear. I couldn't, it's not like the fear is ever going to go away. Even as you step into it, even as you take the next 50 steps, the fear is going to be your partner in this. And I think I started to change my relationship with fear. Like, okay, fear is my friend. Fear wants to protect me. But I think for me, it was this point where I gave birth and I was like, this is it. It's now or never. And I wanted my son and my child to know that if they ever ask me, how to go after my dreams, how am I going to teach him if I've never gone out of my dreams? And I've always done the things that everybody else was doing that was safe, right? I come from an Indian background, and in our families, like, corporate job is the thing. Like, oh my God, you made it. You're a lawyer. You made it. You're a doctor. You made it, right? So with that kind of thinking, it kind of becomes your belief systems, right? They stop you. And so many women I meet, they're like, I've quiet quit. I just do the bare minimum. I show up and I'm not really engaged with the corporate work, but it pays the bills and they don't know what else to do. And while that's happening, I do meet women who really like their work, who are happy or are maybe in good companies as well that engage them differently. But yeah, when we are in times like we are right now, the economy is in a recession and there is this narrative of scarcity and fear. Definitely, most people go in survival mode. Most companies go in survival mode. So it's definitely going on right now. And through the coaching work that I did, I had coaches myself. I don't think I would have been able to do this work without the support of coaches. I had 2 coaches who came in like angels into my life when I really, really needed the support. Because my family, I just moved to Canada with my family, and my family back home was like, you got to do a job at least for a year or 2. And I had a job. The company that I was working with in Dubai, they reached out to the company here and they were like, we can offer you a role here. No issues. I had to say no to that because I was like, I was not even 10% excited for that role. And I felt it in my body. I think I reached that point where my body said no. I just had a contraction and I had strong reaction. I was just like, sorry, I just can't anymore. So I had my family who didn't believe in me. Literally everybody was telling me not to do this. But there was this instinct and there was this little voice in my body and it was telling me, no, this is it. This is what you got to do. And these coaches came in and they pushed me, and little by little, step by step, I made it happen. But it takes support. And I think as a woman, especially with ingrained narratives and belief systems and, systemic constraints, I think support is necessary. And there is nothing wrong with needing support.
No, yeah, 100%. I think there's a few things that you touched on that I really liked. One was like the configuring your relationship with fear and talking about like fear is your friend. It's here to protect you. And also like you have a partnership with fear. I think that's something that for me, I have like, lifelong anxiety. So fear has always been looked at as like an enemy, like, oh, I have to get rid of the fear. And as I've gone on this journey of life, I've realized, like you said, like the fear doesn't ever go away. And it's like, you think that like, oh, when the fear goes away, that means like the good thing is happening. But I realized that a lot of the times when the fear is at the height, that the good thing happens after that. And so kind of like visiting and reviewing how you look at fear and redefining your relationship with that. I thought that was really cool. And then also what you said about needing support and community is also huge. That's why Beats and Balances kind of here is like just that understanding is that like you can't do anything alone. And we live in a very individualized society that shames that. But it's like the people that are thriving throughout history are always the people that have had strong communities, because life isn't meant to be a maze that you're in by yourself. Like what would be the fun in that? So I love that. And then also what you said about listening to your body. I think that's super, super key, because your body never lies to you, right? Like you, as somebody, like I said, who has anxiety, like my mind will tell me a million lies. And I'll get wrapped up in overthinking and stuck and paralyzed and not knowing what to do. But my body, if my body does that like clinching thing, then it's like I've learned to be like, oh no, that's a no. Like I don't even need to overthink. It's like my body is like instantly telling me that. So I really loved that point. I think it's super important for folks listening to like really trust kind of that inner voice you spoke about, and also definitely trust whatever
Yeah, I
somatic
think
feelings you're feeling in your body.
as a woman, women don't trust their bodies,
Mm-hmm.
because they have learned to override that instinct, override it by being more rational. Because believe it or not, women do face more scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
The decisions that they will make will have bigger repercussions. I'll give you a small example, right? Because when women take breaks from work, when they become moms, right, there's the motherhood penalty.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a hard decision because you just became a mom. You want to spend time with your child, but you spent how many years, I don't know, building a career. And then you take a break and then you go back, and some people will be blessed enough to not have that impact their life. But most women lose income, they lose titles. And it's a hard choice, because just because you're a woman, you're gonna have bigger repercussions. So it is harder for a woman to make that leap,
Mm-hmm.
because you know that I've been away from corporate now for a year and a half, and now if I want to get back into it, it's probably going to be at a level lower than I was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So these are hard choices to make, but these are hard choices.
Yeah. No, it's true. I remember like speaking with my wife about getting tenure, and like during COVID, a lot of her male colleagues were able to like finish their books and get all their work done. The ones that had kids, and it's because their wives were stuck doing, taking care of the kids, and they would just go, and they thought COVID was great. And then all of her female friends that were professors were like pissed because during COVID they were able to get no work done. And so, their 10 years were denied, and they had all these issues. And people don't really think about like those small things in terms of like the extra layer of work that women have placed on them, not just at home, but then also like in the workplace. You need to be presentable. You have to spend, an hour doing your makeup before. Like men don't do any of that stuff. They get up, they take a shower, they go, and they focus on their work. If women could just focus on their work and that was it, like, we would be far, far ahead of everybody else. But I think there's reasons why there's all these barriers in place, right? Because it's like, if we can perform at the level we're performing now with all of these barriers in place, like imagine if you didn't have them. And so I think that to me is what's revolutionary about, I think, this wave of people that I see now that are like stepping away from corporate or from traditional ideas of what work should look like, and creating their own kind of thing and creating their own lanes, because then they get to be the boss who makes different kind of rules and creates safe work environments. And then you can have people, like you said before, who are working at jobs that they actually love and, can do the work that they're passionate about. But it's really hard to get there. So let's talk a little bit about like burnout. I know you've talked about this. You've called it like survival mode becoming a permanent state, and like what the cost of that is, and how you've been able to deal with that as you've kind of pivoted away from the structure of corporate into doing your own thing while also balancing motherhood and your passion projects. As life is not all work. You have fun in the personal life and all these other things too. So how have you been able to like kind of manage all of those things?
It's a good question. I feel like corporate was a great stepping stone for me, and it is for a lot of women. It is. Coming from the background that I'm coming from, I grew up in a really small town near Dubai. Everybody thinks, oh my God, Dubai, what a beautiful place and everything. But I actually grew up in Fujairah, which is an hour and a half away from Dubai. Such a small town. I didn't have much exposure to anything. I never dreamed. I didn't know the women of my generation, my older cousins and sisters didn't get to study because it was seen as like, you want to study, you're going to get married and have kids. And I grew up in that environment, in that sort of conditioning. And for me, being in the corporate was breaking a glass ceiling, was being seen in this space, which was multinational, it was global. I think it definitely helped me build confidence. I had mentors, I had bosses, some really amazing bosses. And one of my first bosses, she was amazing. And we stayed friends even after she left. Sometime like just about 2 to 3 years ago, when I was telling her I'm moving to Canada, and she was telling me, Vibha, you're so ambitious. And I was like, what? Me? Ambitious? What are you even saying? She's like, you are so ambitious. And I had distanced myself from that word as a woman, because what I saw in the management of the company that it was the culture wasn't really positive or great. So I distanced myself because I didn't resonate with what they were doing. And she's like, Vibha, you go after what you like. You create all of this. You created businesses. You created podcasts. And I was like, oh, I am ambitious. And women will need that reflection coming from other people, because it's like you're in a photograph of your own life and your own journey. But when somebody outside is looking at that photograph, they can point out things that you can't see in yourself, right? And with patriarchal conditioning, which is what I talk about, right? It's deeply seeped into our minds, into our unconscious being. Thousands of years of patriarchal conditioning is not going to get undone in 2 decades of women empowerment in the corporate world. Most women stay in survival mode because they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe in the corporate world. They don't see women like them leading. I didn't see women like me leading. So I never thought that was possible for me. It stayed a glass ceiling for me. Often what tends to happen with being in survival mode is the extreme stress, the burnout. It affects your body. Often men are not as deeply affected by stress, but because women have a hormonal system that works like clockwork, every month your body is producing so many different types of hormones at different times of days and months. If that is disturbed, you're going to have issues. And because of that, I have an autoimmune condition. I have celiac disease, which I believe also happened because of immense stress, because of not prioritizing myself. 80% of people who suffer from autoimmune and chronic conditions are women. So that's the kind of toll this can take on you. And don't get me wrong, I've cried about this. Now it's like funny to me because I was like, I'll be the best people pleaser in the world, but I've sobbed about everything, how much I've given away and how much I've sacrificed and how I never chose me. I never chose me. It was only when I became a mother, I realized that I don't want to pass this on. I don't want my children to think that they need to constantly be sacrificing or overgiving and people pleasing. And I was like, okay, this stops now. I was very intentional and I was very conscious when I was becoming a mother. Making that decision to be a mother. And so I was looking at all of my patterns, my beliefs, and I was like, no, I don't want to carry this on. I don't want to take this forward into my lineage. And choices had to be made at that point. And I asked more from people. I always asked for more. I always asked for more from my family, from my husband. When we decided to become parents, I said to him that you got to be me when I'm not around, and I'm going to be you when you're not around. That's the kind of involvement I need you to have as a father, because if that's not happening, then I don't want to really have kids. It's fine.
Yeah, that's huge.
Right. So it was for both parties. It was a conscious choice. It was a conscious decision. And he showed up. He did. He showed up and I was really surprised. I had no idea that he was going to show up like this as a father. He's going to be so involved and so engaged. And he did that. I think that allowed me to choose myself to a great extent. It made me feel safe that, okay, my son is taken care of. I can step out. I can leave. He's going to get love at home, right? Somebody's looking after him. But if that's not happening and you're constantly stressing like, oh my God, my kid is in daycare and no family support, that's going to chip away at you. That's going to chip away at your confidence. It's going to drain your energy. I believe to come out of survival mode nowadays in this economy, in this state of the world that we are in, with the wars going on, with Trump in power, it takes conscious effort. It takes conscious effort for everybody. People who are neurodivergent have to make extra effort. So if you're not making extra effort, you're going to stay stuck in that loop. You're going to have that stress affect your body. Yeah, you're not going to be able to come out of that cycle of burnout. It starts with definitely realizing what kind of support you need and asking for it from your friends. Every time I get a woman come to me for coaching, one of the first questions I ask is, what do you do for play? What do you do for pleasure, just for yourself? What do you do for joy? A lot of the times they don't have an answer.
Yeah, I believe that.
They don't know. And that's the first thing to figure out, because play and pleasure are the opposite of stress and cortisol. So play and pleasure creates oxytocin in our bodies, and that's what stops the production of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. Being present is something that helps. Being a meditator for many years, I do know now that I want to be present. I want to be more here in this moment, because mind wants to loop, wants to create scenarios, wants to create doomsday scenarios all the time. And especially being an environmentalist for me, I am like, what am I going to do? Like, my child has come into a world where is destruction and no care about climate related policies and rules. So conscious effort, conscious choice.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think, like you said, it can be really, really easy to get wrapped up in the doom of everything, constant distractions with the news and then scrolling on social media. All of those things are affecting us in all these negative ways that we don't realize, on top of the stress that we already have. So it's like our stress relief activities have become also stressful. And so I think it's really important, like you said, just being really intentional about like what you consume on TV, what you consume in your body, the type of people you speak to, building your communities. Because like you said, it has a wild repercussion on your body. Like, I've had also chronic health issues pretty much my whole life. And I realize the more women I speak to, like we all, I honestly, I cannot remember the last time I've spoken to a woman that did not suffer from some kind of chronic health issue. Like you said, we have been trained to ignore our bodies until it gets to the point where it's screaming at you and you're in the ER. And by that point, it's like, not that it's too late, but like we need to start focusing on like stopping before it gets to that level. And so I really appreciate what you said, because it's super important. Like, definitely taking the time to be intentional, listen to your body, and make sure that you're actively including pleasure and play. We're really big on inner child healing here, and that came from this whole same journey through like battling stress and chronic illness and depression, anxiety, and then realizing like, oh, like you have the power to kind of like change your perception of things, and then change your life and your health and your body, and all those things follow after that. So I think that's super important. All right, well, let's talk about something else now. We have talked a lot about like corporate culture and how that can mirror like the patriarchal patterns that we see. Can you talk a little bit about how you help women kind of overcome that issue? Because it's like a kind of societal issue. You can't really escape the patriarchy because it's everywhere. So how do you like help women work within it until it can be dismantled? Because I won't say that it's permanent.
Yeah. I think for me, it started with processing my anger, because I had a lot of anger about patriarchy. I grew up in a home where women were oppressed. All kinds of abuse was going on. And even just witnessing it, I didn't personally experience the abuse, but witnessing it, constantly hearing stories of it in your family, your sisters, your aunts, can leave a mark, a dent in your body. But you've been so deeply conditioned, right? You're going to carry it everywhere. You take it to your work. You take it to everything. And the more I went deeper into this, the more I realized that it's in everything. It's in medical institutions. It's in educational institutions. It's in governments. It's in corporates. Like how? Not even in the world of spirituality are women equal.
Yeah.
And that's what I've found by being in that world. So I think the first and foremost, the point is to really process the anger, because most women have anger. They probably suppressed it and they're probably hiding it somewhere in their body. But here's the thing, emotion, energy in motion, if you're suppressing it, it's going to come out somewhere else. It might come out as resentment. It might come out as frustration. It might come out as depression or becoming numb and not engaging with anything and just being stuck. And here's the thing with quiet quitting as well, right? Like, it's okay. Quiet quitting is a survival mechanism. You can stay there for a short period of time, but if you're just staying there for years and years, you're just giving up all choice. You're giving up your time, your life, and you're not really living. You're not alive, you know?
Yeah. So
first thing is definitely processing your anger. And then next is becoming empowered. Becoming empowered, I think, is really important. Women generally go through these 4 phases in their life, right? There's maiden, there's mother, creator, there's wise woman, and there's crone. Everybody talks about it nowadays. We experience it every month in our cycle as well. Most women get stuck in maiden. We have 50-year-old women who want to look like a 25-year-old woman, or who want to be like that, pretty, polite, pleasing, right? Because that's the patriarchal conditioning. They want you to stay there. They want you to keep chasing the past and stay stuck there. But if you were to not get sucked into this patriarchal conditioning, you would naturally evolve. If you stop resisting the natural flow of life, things will start coming out. When women feel safe to be in their mother phase, and the mother phase doesn't mean giving birth all the time. That could be part of it, but you could be a creator of anything. You could be a creator of a business, an ideology. You could be a creator of a book, a concept, an organization, whatever it is. That is the most natural instinct of women, of humans. We came here to create. And just yesterday, I was looking at my plants in my balcony. I have tomatoes and peppers. And I was like, oh, this pepper plant is working so hard to make so many peppers. And then I was like, wait a minute. The pepper plant's natural instinct is to grow pepper. It isn't working hard and going like, oh, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. and I'm going to make peppers today.
Yeah.
It's your most natural instinct. So if you stop resisting, you're naturally going to want to create. You're naturally going to want to share your light. But it is the fact that when you don't feel safe, you're not going to be able to be empowered. You're not going to be able to make choices that are empowered. So it starts by creating safety, because often what you're doing is you're looking for safety outside. Maybe my spouse can give me safety. Maybe my friends. Maybe my work. Maybe my spirituality. My faith will give me safety. But here's the thing. Nothing. They might give you some form of love and safety. But when you give yourself that love and safety, it hits different.
Yeah.
The power of your own love for yourself hits different. And I did that for many, many years. I'm a very spiritual person, but I now realize I was spiritually bypassing. And I was like, okay, spirituality says, and this is how spirituality can hold women back. So I used to think, okay, accept it. Accept what's happening. It's okay. What's meant for you will come for you. But I wasn't taking action. I wasn't taking action to create my own life. And what I was doing was I was creating healing so I could take more shit.
Yeah.
You know? So I can continue to be a people pleaser. I can continue to give a lot. And I have this one client, and she goes like, you know, she has some issues with her parents and all of that. And she doesn't want to speak up. And I'm like, that's fine. If you're not there right now, it's okay. We're going to create safety. She's like, what can I do? What healing can I do? So I don't want to speak up.
Mm.
So you see, you're trying to avoid the things that you need to do by hiding behind spirituality, by doing healing work, constantly in healing mode, but never taking action. So in the coaching world, you are in action mode. It's inner work plus action. Because once you do the inner work, you naturally want to take action. And when you start taking action, the fears that you've been avoiding come up and you get to
100%.
feel them. Once you feel the fear, you free yourself from it. Because here's the thing, the worst thing that can possibly happen is in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind is creating the worst possible scenario. Once you've seen it, you felt it. What's worse out there?
Yeah.
You become fearless. While I knew a lot of this, the coaching that I've studied is Elisa Nobrika's Institute of Coaching Mastery. And I really resonated with her coaching style because she brought in these spiritual principles and then she seamlessly taught us to apply it to everything in life.
Mm.
And when you do that, there's no more right and wrong. There's more presence. There's more acceptance. There is more compassion. And I started to just feel lighter.
Mm.
Like I wasn't bagged down by all of these thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready yet. I'm not there yet. Whatever it is, right? All of these thoughts, they are belief systems. They came from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
They came from early childhood memories, the environment, the systemic conditioning. I mean, no matter what happens, even if your parents didn't follow patriarchal systems, the messaging out there is undeniable. You cannot escape it. You can't.
Yeah.
As a woman, you can't escape it.
Yeah, no, it's deeply, deeply ingrained.
I think what I tell women to do, is make choices. First, understand how are you contributing to these systems?
Mm-hmm.
How are you contributing? How are you adding to it?
Yeah, that's huge.
And it's a really hard question to see because then that's where you come face to face with your shadows, with your own darkness, because you're like, oh my God, I have biases against women. Yes, you do, because 90% of people have biases against women. Women have biases against men. Women objectify women. Men objectify women. Children objectify women. There is not an inch of a woman's body right now that's not objectified. And how is that going to make you feel safe to be seen?
Yeah.
No, that's not going to make you feel safe. So when you start looking at how you are projecting unconscious biases on other women, and to understand that, you really need to observe your thoughts. And that's why I do tell people to meditate at least for 5 to 10 minutes and get intentional, because people are like, but I have all these thoughts. And that's the point. Look at your thoughts, because the thoughts are connected to belief systems, to memories in your body. And you got to feel the emotions connected to those memories. Have you seen this movie Inside Out?
Yeah.
Right? It's
Pixar.
so popular and it's amazing. And you see how joy has memories, and those memories are turning into belief systems, into thoughts. And sometimes I don't know, like, why do I have this thought? I'm not good enough. Where did this come from? But if you close your eyes and you go a little bit deeper into your body, mind resists. You got to go deeper, because 95% of behavior, according to research, comes from the unconscious mind. So if you stay here, you keep doing affirmations, you keep doing healing, it's not going to go deeper. So when you go deeper into your body, often memories surface. So we understand those memories. We feel the emotions that came up during those memories that probably you didn't get a chance to feel when you were younger. So you feel them, you accept them, you embrace them, and then you reframe those thoughts. That's when you start to create affirmations that are true for you, that resonate with you. And when they come from this deeper state, they have a bigger impact.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. One of the things I say a lot is that I think the revolution is going to be individual, as in, like, it has to be something that comes from within each individual person and how they see the world and interact with it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that your thoughts really do make your reality. It sounds like some woo woo thing, but it's like what you think affects every part of your day and how you behave and how you treat other people and how other people treat you and the lens in which you see the world and all those things. And so it is like something that's so simple, but seems really hard is just like take that time to pause and like really evaluate your thoughts. Where do they come from? What is the root of them? Do I actually believe this? I feel like there's so many people, and I know this because this is myself. Like I think I was like in my late 20s when I realized like, oh, like I am every single part of my life was not my choice. Everything was like what I thought my mom wanted me to do. I was pre-law in college. I wanted to be in video school. Like, yeah, I wanted to go to film school, but like I was so ingrained. And I don't know if my mother even ever said like, I want you to be a lawyer. It was just like, I took that from the environment that I was in and all the subliminal messages and everything. And so I really, for most of my life, and that's how I ended up in the hospital with stomach ulcers in college, with doctors looking at me like, you're way too young to have stomach, like what is going on? And it was really like all of this stress that I had put on myself that I didn't even realize that I'd been living with for my whole entire life. That led to one of many pre-midlife crises. But through the difficulty of that is when I really was able to take the time to pause and realize, like, what do I actually want to do? Like, if this, and I don't believe that this is our only one life, but this is the one life we have right now. And so if this is, if I came down here to do something, do I want to spend my time doing that, or do I want to spend my time kind of in this limbo of people pleasing and living like a robot? Really is what it becomes. Like you're not really interacting with the world around you. You become like, so I don't even know, like it becomes such a routine, like A to B, work, school, whatever, and then that becomes your whole entire life. And when you step outside of it and like people like to say, go touch grass. But when you really do that, like your whole life will change, because it's like, oh, like there's a beautiful world out there, like right outside. And I completely have been missing it, sitting in the air conditioning with these like lights on, forgetting that I'm even a human being. And so yeah, I really love that, because it is really simple. And I think people make it so hard, but really you just sit with yourself and
Yeah, I
decide
think
what you like.
that's powerful. I think what you went through, and also at such a young age, you realized, that no, this is not what I want. I want to make different choices. I want to take different actions. And for many people, it will happen at different stages. Life teaches us. You can trust life 100% to teach you the same lessons over and over again until you get them, really get them deeply. Right. And often people are wondering, like, why is this happening to me all the time? And you're like, you're not seeing the patterns. And that's what the life wants to show you.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe you got the lesson 20% the first time, then you get it 30%, and then you get it 50%. You're like, this is what life was telling me all along.
And it's ever constant. I think I've reached the part where I thought like, oh, I healed, I did it, I understand the whole world. And then it was like, boom, crisis. And it's like, another thing that I think you mentioned too was like taking what you've learned, because when you're into spirituality and healing, you go through that phase of like, just listening to the vibrations and the affirmations, and that is important for a time. But until you put the effort in and the action in, you do just get stuck in another kind of limbo. I think there's Doechii, this rapper, that has a lyric that says that life is like a bicycle. It doesn't move until you pedal it. And it's true. It's like life will only give you as much as you put in. And we can get really stuck in like a victim mentality of like, oh, everybody else has everything happening so easily for them, and why not me? Or why am I keep going through these same cycles? And it's like, if you sit with yourself, you realize that you're going through the same cycles because you're deciding to go, you're deciding to go through the same cycles. And really just like making that one decision to do something different, to step off the Ferris wheel, can set you on a whole nother path and open up life in so many ways. And I think people get so stuck in this like wheel that they think that they're on, that they don't even look to see like there's a million different paths that you can take.
Yeah. And there's fear. right? There's always fear that's going to stop you, because when you come face to face with your shadows and your own darkness,
Yeah.
and it was a harsh reality for me to see that I had unconscious bias against women.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a feminist for more than a decade, and I was like, what? I have it. And it's just like I said, thousands of years of patriarchal conditioning is not going to go away like this. I was like, there's work to do. There's work to do. So it's good self-awareness. Self-awareness is you being a scientist, is you just turning the gaze on yourself. Forget about the world. This is how I start with every woman.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about everybody else. Time to turn the gaze on yourself. Time to understand yourself. Because from the time you were a baby, you've been looking outside. You've been looking outside for everything. But here's the thing. You can fulfill your every need.
Yeah.
Right? And that's when the unlearning starts, and trusting yourself.
No, that's powerful. I think that's super important. And I think it's great to remind women that you do have the power. If you took time and like made a list of all the things you do for everybody else, I think most people would be like amazed. Like it's just like, oh, well, I did all of that. And it's like, if you even put like 10% of that into yourself, like how much different your life could be. So I love that. It's like the definition of empowering is really just remembering that like the power comes from within inside yourself. And everything around us is a construct and nothing is permanent. We don't have to live this way. And just that understanding is so freeing. So I really love the work that you're doing. I think it's super, super important. And I think I think like this is what the world needs. Women, men, everybody. I think this is a universal message that takes some time to just look within and focus on yourself and figure yourself out, and then deal with the rest of the world. Is there anything else that you have that you want to talk about, or anything you have coming up that you want to plug?
Yeah, I think I wanted to address one question that you had sent to me, which is such a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, if this bias, the unconscious bias that 90% of the people have, right? How do we become aware of it?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's unconscious means that you're not going to be aware of it. And what is really needed for you to bring it into your consciousness is safety.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is safety. So creating safe spaces where people can open up and be vulnerable, because the unconscious part of you is not going to come out until it feels safe. So, which is what tends to happen when women also come into these coaching containers, because there's safety here. So you can finally meet your true authentic self, the good and the bad, right? So I think definitely number one is creating safety. Number two is normalizing bias.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at bias, everybody has it. There is a reason bias exists. We make thousands of decisions every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you make it faster is your mind is like, oh, I already made this decision before. It happened like this. These are the biases. But it is important to acknowledge these biases when they are impacting important decisions.
Mm.
So in everyday life, it's fine to have biases. It's okay. But for example, if you are hiring people and you're only hiring people who look like you, that means you're only giving opportunities to people who look like you, then that's got to be something that you have to address.
Mm.
And normalizing it in the sense that I have it. I understand my own privileges. That's number one. And this is a concept that was shared by this woman. Her name is Ruchika Tulsian, and she's written a book on this. It's called Inclusion on Purpose. It's a really, really good book that addresses these issues of DEI that we are facing right now, specifically for women of color.
Mm.
What she talks about is acknowledging your privileges, right? So I am a woman of color, but my skin is lighter. I look different. So maybe that is a privilege that I've had. I come from a middle-class family. I did get exposed. I did get good opportunities because I went to a good university that was paid for by my parents. These are all my privileges.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you have these privileges doesn't make your struggle any less. So white people, white women may get privileges. They may get their foot in the door very quickly. They get opportunities, mentors, sponsors, right? But just because you have privileges doesn't make your struggle any less. So that's Number 2. And then when you find out that I have biases in me, I am biased against women, because trust me, you are. And to know how you have the bias is to really observe your thoughts. When you meet a person for the first time, maybe from a different ethnicity or a different gender, what are the first thoughts that come up? Oh, she's so different from me. Oh, they do this. Oh, this is what they eat. This is how they eat. Look at what your mind is doing, because that's the only way to catch biases. And when I do workshops in the corporate world, this is what we do, because most people have never observed their minds. If you want to observe the unconscious, you got to observe your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And once they start seeing it and they start acknowledging it, then you have intention. You make conscious effort, especially if you're in a position of power, especially if you are giving out opportunities. Yeah. You're admitting people to universities, you're promoting people, right? That's where it makes impact.
No, 100%. I think that's super important. And people, I think, should definitely be more aware of the impact that they have, but also the part that you talked about with not having shame when you realize, because everybody has biases, and unlearning to do. And I think that's the part that kind of prevents a lot of healing from happening, is because people get wrapped up in the shame of, I don't want to admit that I'm biased. I don't want to admit that I'm racist. I don't want to admit that I'm misogynistic or whatever. And it's like, instead of looking at these things as like personality flaws, just look at it as like something that you learn that you need to unlearn. And it's okay to say, oh, I thought this and I'm wrong. And I'm very of the opinion that everybody in the world has way more in common than we think we do. I lived in Morocco for a bit with a family there, and my host family didn't speak any English, and it was all women, and they were Muslim, and it was, culture shock. And then as we got to know each other, I was like, you're exactly like my grandmother. Like I got sick one time. She was like, oh, let me put an onion in your sock. And I was like, my grandmother did. Like, and then you start breaking, and then you realize like, oh, we have way more. And they became like my actual real family. But in the first moment of meeting, we were all looking at each other like, well, like, what is this going to look like? Like, they looked at me like they didn't know what was going on. I looked at them like, I didn't, but by the time the semester was up, it was like, no, there's no real difference here. And I think after having all these conversations with all these different people on this podcast, and people are probably tired of hearing me say this, but I think one of the most amazing things has really been able to affirm that belief and see that no matter the backgrounds, no matter the job, no matter, the life path, we all kind of have these similarities in our struggle, and also in our joy and how we love. And so I really hope that people, if they take anything from this podcast, it's that we have way more in common than we think. And if we work together, we could all live a lot more peacefully and with a lot less stress. So I really thank you so much for joining me today and spreading your message. Are you taking clients? Is there a way for people to get in contact with you or see your work if they want to find you?
Yeah. So I created a company. It's called Heal Her Way. Mm-hmm. And you can look up my website if you want, healherway.ca. If you want, find me on Instagram, Heal Her Way again. So reach out to me. I have a 3-month coaching container where I coach women to help them become leaders, step into leadership, because that's what's going to change the world.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll have all that information also written down in the caption for folks. But yeah, you heard it here now. Please reach out. This is super important. And, I think the sooner we all kind of get our lives on track, the sooner we can get ourselves out of this like crazy, chaotic period of time that we're living in. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. And for folks listening, we will be back next Thursday. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you so much, Tinora. Thank you.